Alright, so I have finally chosen my focus word for 2020. For the last few years I've been setting a theme for the year, which is just one word that enables me to stay on track with whatever I'm hoping to achieve in that year. Last year my word was attention, so it was all about paying attention to what I was doing, which in itself was a mindful practice. Also sustained attention, deeply focusing on the task at hand and avoiding distractions, so noticing when my attention was wandering, but also paying attention to everything that was around me. Exploring the difference between focused attention, focusing on one task at a time, and also full attention, so really paying attention to everything around me and all of my senses. It worked well for me. It was a good word. The question that I was asking myself on a regular basis was, where is my attention right now? And it helped me with decision making and being present in the moment and in trying to engage with others. I'm not so big on New Year's resolutions as such. I always like to have goals that I'm working towards. Some measurable goals, things that I would like to achieve and things that I would like to do with consistency to progress. But I don't so much buy into the new year, new me kind of vibe. In fact, my birthday is in May and I tend to treat my birthday as more of a time restraint as to when I want to achieve certain things by. Each year is actually the age that I'm at, the age that I'm turning, rather than the start of the actual new year. Having said that though, here in New Zealand, it's summer, not that you would know that right now because it's raining, but with Christmas and having a couple of weeks off work, it is actually the perfect time to pause, rest, and reflect on the year that has been and the year that is coming up, and make sure that we are still moving forward and making positive transformations in our lives. And there's something about that summery vibe that makes you feel quite warm and inspired to improve and transform and progress. Anyway, having said all of that, I have set myself a few measurable goals. Some of them do tie in with my theme of the year, so I'll discuss those as I get to them throughout the year. Otherwise they are mostly quite personal, but I do like to be quite open about my focus word of the year because it sparks some really interesting conversations when I ask friends about their word for the year, whether it's something that might challenge them, not something that's going to be very easy to adhere to, or it's something that they need in their life, something that they feel they need to keep them motivated or on track, or maybe it's just where they're at the moment, or maybe it's looking ahead to what that year will bring and making the most of it by staying focused on that one word. So I have had some really cool conversations over the last couple of years. I mean, if you can think of a focus word for yourself, I would really love to hear it because it's so much fun to share. Now at the end of last year I actually did pick a word, but something about it just didn't quite feel right. It didn't feel like it was going to be enough of a challenge, or it wouldn't bring about a profound transformation, which is ultimately what we're seeking. But then yesterday I was listening to a recent episode of the Afford Anything podcast where Paula Pant was interviewing a psychologist called Dr. Susan David, and she was talking about emotional agility. And it was a really interesting concept about being open to feelings without judgment. And that's something that I have been exploring over the last few years anyway, but there was just something about what she was talking about that inspired something different in me. Dr. Susan David did a TED talk a few years ago, so I will link to it up here. It's a really interesting talk, and so I recommend that you watch it. And it got me thinking about what I need to get myself where I want to be. So without further ado, my 2020 focus word is discomfort. The intolerable, disagreeable, prickly state of discomfort. It's a feeling that is often avoided or even feared, but it can be the pathway to growth, triumph, progress and accomplishment. And the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is this positive vibes only culture. That's something I don't buy into. I guess I've never really been one for purely positive thinking. I like to approach things really rationally and objectively and almost with a little bit of cynicism. That's just my nature, I guess. But I just the idea of always choosing happy thoughts. I get the sentiment, but it just doesn't work for me. I like to explore all emotions as having value, and what I practice is all about recognizing what I'm feeling and exploring it and understanding those emotions rather than blocking out anything that feels uncomfortable and choosing happiness and choosing positivity. That's my personal preference, and that is my practice right now. So it really is about exploring this feeling of discomfort. Do we find happiness and contentment through choosing happiness, or is it actually discovered by having those awkward conversations and embracing uncomfortable feelings, or even finding the courage to overcome fears rather than staying within that safe, happy space? So I'm calling it living in the discomfort zone. And discomfort doesn't have to be about pain or suffering or deprivation. It can be those really small moments, those small actions that take us that extra step further to where we want to be. The difference between staying in our comfort zone or making progress can be just in showing up. It can be in pushing through and saying yes, stepping into the unknown and embracing the unexpected, and being open just to trying something. To take a more quantifiable approach, what are some examples that could lead us to a sense of accomplishment, transformation, and connection? It could be asking a question in a room full of people. It could be doing that extra rep, or running to the next lamppost, answering the call, or writing that message that you've been avoiding. It can be staying on task until the job is done, sharing a personal belief that you feel strongly about, even though it might be challenged or disagreed with, scheduling the most difficult task first, ordering something different from the menu, asking for feedback, sitting through 1 more minute of meditation, being willing to not have it go your way, being immersed in silence, no matter how uncomfortable it is, without the temptation of distracting yourself or entertaining yourself, leaning into an anxious feeling to discover its roots, saying hi to a stranger, or being the first to apologize. The funny thing is that by pushing through a state of discomfort, the discomfort itself is therefore overcome. So what is waiting on the other side of discomfort? And what was gained by persevering? Was it really so painful? Or was it just really uncomfortable in the moment? A quote by Seth Godin: "Discomfort brings about engagement and change. Discomfort means you're doing something that others are unlikely to do because they're hiding out in the comfortable zone." Now, the year before last, 2018, my word for the year was ease, and it was exactly what I needed at that time. I was searching for an easeful way of life and kind of reframing my attitude and behaviour towards certain situations by considering what it would be like if that situation were easier. Like I say, it was exactly what I needed just to find ease within myself. It was a way of finding connection and changing my outlook, changing my perspective. And it's kind of funny how I consider that discomfort is the antithesis of ease. So it's going to be really interesting, and yet I'll still be approaching it with the same open-hearted presence and vulnerability. It's an exploration. But I also feel that discomfort can be the antithesis to complacency. With my focus for last year being so distilled down to just what I was focusing on, it meant that the introverted aspect of my personality was thriving. And I got really, really comfortable, very safe, very comfortable, and within my comfort zone. Again, it's what I needed at that time. It was stabilizing for me, and it was a way to focus and a way to get stuff done. But now I need a new challenge. I need to be pushed a little further. I need to feel what it's like to be with discomfort, to sit with discomfort, to notice what happens in those moments, to explore the emotions that I feel when I'm in that state of discomfort, and push through to the other side and see what's waiting for me there. The idea of all emotions serving a purpose is something that I've been exploring for quite a while now. Like what I was saying about choosing happiness, you know, I really feel that there is a lot of value in all of the emotions that we feel. If only we can step back from them and not be absorbed by them, not be directed by them, but actually look back on them and see what they are teaching us, what these emotions are trying to say to us. And this is beautifully illustrated in the movie Inside Out, the Pixar film. And I'll link to the trailer up here. It's about a little girl who has a spectrum of emotions like all of the rest of us, and they are functioning inside her head. There's sort of drivers inside her head. There's joy, anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. And the movie is really about seeing the value of all of those emotions. And on a primal level, our emotions do serve us. You know, we have fear, anxiety, and disgust that keep us safe. They keep us from harm. We have anger, which helps us to express ourselves. We have sadness, which helps us to be empathetic to others, and it's grounding. The pursuit of discomfort. What have I done? I'll look forward to sharing my very uncomfortable and prickly journey with you in 2020 throughout the year. Meanwhile, I would love to hear what your word is. If you've thought of a word, or even a phrase or a couple of words, I'd love to know about it. These conversations are so interesting, and I would love to know how it can serve and guide you in your journey for 2020 and keep you aligned with your goals, whatever your goals may be. Maybe you have some measurable goals, or maybe there's something that you just want to approach with consistency. Could be big, could be small, but it all has value. Please share in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you have a wonderful 2020. Discomfort.